I'm Kyla Jersey for Shalom TV. We're here at the Anne Frank Center, New York City, for the world premiere of The Pin, the first movie made in Yiddish in 7 years in North America.
Ich gehe nicht haben dem Atem. Ich werde erstickt. Ich werde ertrunken. Es ist allemal derselbe Cholem. Du musst mir zusagen. Als ich will sterben, wirst du mir geben einen Stock in der Hand mit der Spielke. Jedermann begrabt mich.
Toch niet kind morgen.
Es ist schwer zu sagen, liegen mit die Hand.
Ik wil dich verbleiben. Du musst leben.
Ist das nicht besser?
It didn't start off in Yiddish. I wrote the script in English, and it was going to be set somewhere in Eastern Europe. So I was going to find two actors who spoke Russian, Lithuanian, Hungarian, something, and that's where it was going to be set. And then I was having a conversation with a woman about funding, and she was just telling, a Jewish woman, she was telling me stories about her family in Poland and this, or her family in Poland, and they were sitting at the table and having breakfast and saying blah, blah, blah in Yiddish. And I was like, oh my God. They wouldn't be speaking Russian or Hungarian, or they would be speaking Yiddish to each other. As soon as they knew that the other was a Jew, they would be speaking Yiddish. So then it became a Yiddish film.
Von was trachtest du, als du liegst schon lange unter den Hey?
Ik weet niet.
Ich hab lieb zu Cholmen.
She was looking for someone who believed in her project, in her script, but also in the way she wanted to do it, which was in the Yiddish language. And I think a lot of people had sort of been quite skeptical about that idea. And I really connected to the subject matter. And I thought it was incredibly well written. And I thought about the idea of making it in Yiddish, and at first I probably had a little bit of the same reaction as everyone else. It's sort of conventional wisdom, you know. But then I realized, in this day and age, to me the best asset a movie can have is to stand apart and to forge its own path, and to be different and be confident in its own uniqueness. And I realized for that reason it was actually a really exciting idea to make it in Yiddish.
I love the Yiddish. It brought me back to my grandparents.
You know, when I was growing up, I learned languages just simply by watching TV. You know, having a satellite dish and getting Italian channels, you pick up a little bit of Italian, you pick up a little bit of French, and you pick up a little bit of German. And then once I approached this, you know, I learned English at a very young age, and once I approached this, I was like, oh, I can see root words from different languages, and this is kind of amazing, and like, oh, there's a lot of German in this, and like, it started to click in a very interesting way.
The most important thing for me was to make a film that felt authentic, and there's something about language that takes you directly into a time and place, so that was really important for the story.
Our first audition was in English, however, and then our callbacks were in Yiddish, and we had to actually tell the story that we tell a story in the film. And there was a long monologue text just in Yiddish, and actually written in English but transcripted to Yiddish. And then we were given a video of someone reading the monologue for us to learn it. So that was like a whole 9 yards where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to go in and do what I can with this and just listen to the woman in the video as much as I can and just kind of like play off of that.
Der Ängste liegen meine zurückgewandt zu den Eltern. Hab sie gesagt, dass ich gehe frisch schlafen. Aber in der Reimesen hab ich sicher rausgegangen mit von Haus. Hab sich gefühlt, als so versteckt in Stuhl, als hab gemeint, ich werde erworgen. Bin ich heraufgekrochen auf dem Dach, gucken auf die Sterne. Hab gedacht, sein allein, rutsch auf der Schau. Ich bin mühsam eingeschlafen auf dem Dach. Zu seinem vorbei etliche Schau. Von der her hab ich gesehen, als man hat das ganze Städtel zusammengeklebt. Die Mami ist gestanden von hinten. Hab sich behalten den ganzen Tag. Hab nur gesehen, die Mami, wie sie guckt darauf zu mir, und hat sie zugenommen.
I would say the language itself, my Lithuanian language, helped me to learn Yiddish way easier than I thought it would. There are actually a few words that I would pick up from just learning it, and I would go, wow, I actually know this word, and my mother or grandmother used to use that.
The other language that they speak at the very beginning, the language that Milda and Pascal speak together, is Russian. But to me, it's not important where you are, and it's very intentional that you never hear their names. You never know where you are in the present or the past. It's a very intentional choice. So, we're somewhere in Eastern Europe, and that's all that we know.
We definitely got a lot of support in the Jewish community at large. I mean, from Yiddish enthusiasts in different cities who are very supportive of the film. And it wouldn't have been made if it wasn't for them. So actually, the community was very, very supportive and helpful.
Es ist schwer zu sagen, liegen mit die Hand. Zart, delikat. Nicht kein Hand von Kinderarbeiter. Stammt von vermöglichen Menschen. Bis nicht lang zurück von daheim. Die Nägel nicht lang zurückgeschnitten.
We pick and choose little happenings in our lives that we can possibly relate to in specific moments for specific scenes. Personally, myself, I had a lot of. Basically, I was going back to when I moved from Lithuania to Canada, going through immigration, and all these kind of happenings in my life really reflected a lot in this film.
When I first got into the theater and watched this film by accident, it was the image of two lovely young adults in the barn. I missed the first 5 minutes of it, and then it just sucked me in, and then the relationship they have created between those two over time. You didn't need to see the first 5 minutes to know what was happening.
It's an important film, and to show the film this evening to this audience at the Anne Frank Center in New York is one of my proudest moments, I think, in my career. It's really special.
I found the sound design fascinating. Was that a clarinet? Was that the sound all through, or what was the odd sound?
It was a wine bottle that the composer was drinking and blowing into. He's an amazingly creative man, and we were talking about what this would sound like and how we wanted it to be very simple and organic feeling, and so it was a bottle.
And you have no survivors or family members that went through the Holocaust?
I do. And some of them are in this room. But my immediate family, no. My father is South African and my mother was British, and their parents were not involved. They were in England and South Africa. But outside of my immediate family, yes.
I'm relatively claustrophobic, but that's because my mother, who was a little girl during the Holocaust, experienced just like when they were underneath the boards. That's exactly what was going on with her, but like for a full year, so much so that she couldn't walk when she got out. So some of that has definitely been transferred to me, and I gotta tell you, the filming, I couldn't breathe half the time.
The cinematographer is a very talented man who actually Dan introduced me to. I hadn't worked with him before. His name is Michael LeBlanc. And we spent a lot of time together going over films that inspired us, looking at paintings and listening to music and photographs. And we sat in my kitchen for, I think, 30 days straight, storyboarding and discussing, what the shots that I wanted, what the aesthetic of the film was, how we were going to do this. And it's almost 100% naturally lit as well, which is amazing. He's a very, very talented man.
To me, the story did resonate because, my grandfather, as things were getting scary in the beginning of World War II in Poland, he and his brothers did walked from Poland, and he walked across Europe, my grandfather. So when I see these scenes of Grisha's character walking through the woods, that really could have been my grandfather. So, it really did resonate with me in that way. And, there's so many stories that people have, and this really could have been my grandfather. So it was powerful for me personally in that way.
When you see a film like The Pin, it just reminds you that there are people in this room tonight whose parents are Holocaust survivors, and my hair just stands up on end just talking to them and hearing their stories, and the fact that they can share their stories and Naomi's generation can tell their stories, I think is really important.
Well, I grew up in a traditional household, but not a very religious household. We belonged to a Reformed synagogue, so I had a bat mitzvah and I was at religious school and Hebrew school and all of those things. And when I was 18, I thought, I don't believe in organized religion. I feel like a hypocrite taking part in this, so I'm just going to go and live my life. But then ever since then, every project that I do somehow has a Jewish theme to it. And when this one kind of finally popped out of my head, I realized that it's in your genes. You can't escape it. It's in your soul.
Thank you so much for joining us at the Anne Frank Center, New York City, for the world premiere of The Pen, the first Yiddish movie to be released in North America after 70 years. My name is Kyla Jersey for Shalom TV, and see you next time.